First of all, welcome to Something Wicked DocuFest 2022. And first of all, we would like you to tell everyone who you are, what you did on your film, and what your film is.
Hi there, my name is Tim Landry. I did a film called Shoveling Pixie Dust, a memoir. It's a story of my whole life, or my whole career anyway. And I did it during lockdown, just little old me.
I did not know you did this during lockdown. Wow.
I had to have something to do.
But you have so much footage that's contained in this film, like from everything you've done. I can't even imagine.
Well, you keep stuff in the attic, you know?
Oh, yeah. So, because some people may not have seen your film first, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, I started off and I wanted to be a filmmaker. So I went to film school, and a good chunk of my movie talks about the experience in film school. And it gives viewers a view of a world that doesn't really exist anymore, when we actually made movies on film. And the struggles that you go through when you have no budget, and the struggles that you go through trying to get a job in the industry. And from there, after film school, I worked in commercials and then TV and film and movies, and ultimately ended up working on theme parks.
So that's for a lot of people, that may be a strange little change, working for films to theme parks. So you made the one movie as a director. What's the name of your movie? I wanted to talk about your name of your movie, and all of a sudden I forgot what your original movie was.
Well, I made a student movie called Cabbages and Kings, or The Dancing Princess.
The reason why I wanted to talk about it, because I work for a puppetry center here in Georgia, and
Great.
When you did that, the shadow puppets and the way you did your film was very fascinating. I was like, oh, isn't that cool? You're the first person I've seen do that in a long time. Tell me a little bit about experience of making Cabbages and Kings, because that was fascinating to me.
Well, it was student film land, and I had all these great ambitions. I wanted to see great castles, great costumes, great this, great that. And they only give you about $1.98 to make these movies. And that pays for film and processing, and that's pretty much it. So I had to figure out a way to get my vision up on the screen. And I came up with this concept of doing a silhouette film, shooting actors against a white screen to get a silhouette, and then using that footage and combining it with watercolor paintings to put together sort of a storybook-looking fairy tale movie.
Now, what I really loved about what you did in the documentary is that you showed how you originally did it from your student days, and then you remastered it. And the difference is so phenomenally different between the two. How was the process of doing that? And then, of course, seeing your film the way it was originally to where it is now.
Well, one of the things that we didn't really cue our viewers in on yet is that my career largely was focused around doing visual effects for films and TV and theme parks. And that bridged the eras between the film analog age and the digital age. And so as that progressed, I had to learn digital imagery and all the accoutrements that goes through with that. And those are the tools that I ended up using, restoring a bunch of family photos, student films, older things, trying to get them so that they're presentable for modern audiences.
Oh, okay. So have you shown the newer version of Cabbages and Kings, or is it just something you did personally? Are you showing it at film festivals, or you just did it for fun?
I did it for fun. Well, it was my one and only real directing outing, so I just wanted it to look as good as it could for future generations. And the copyright for it is owned by the University of Southern California, so I can't really do a whole lot with it. Oh. But it is out there on YouTube if you want to go take a look.
So everyone look for it on YouTube, because now that I know that the whole film's out there, I'm going to look for it too. I was so fascinated by it. I was like, oh man, I wish I could see that movie.
Oh, glad you felt that way. We teased you enough, huh?
You did. But also, moving on to some of the other stuff you've done, some of what you showed in the film was just fascinating to me because I had never seen or heard of anyone like you who started off in the film industry and then went off to theme parks based on the technology you were using then, and then changing as time progressed to acquire the new skills with the new type of technology. You seem to have gone through a lot of different generations of different types of effects in order to get where you are today. I mean, how difficult was that?
Well, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but storytelling is storytelling and art is art. And whatever venue you're in, you learn the tools that are available to you and you do the best work that you can using those tools. Now, I won't pretend to be the master of all the tools out there, but I learn enough to get on the screen what I need, and then I collaborate with other people. Okay. I don't think it's that different from what other people do either. It's just that I've been doing it a long time.
Yes, but your valuable experience can also point younger generations to saying, you know, you may be at this point now, but because, you know, technology changes and your jobs change, you have to learn the new tools with each job. And that's exactly what you did, which is what I hope other people will get when they watch your film.
Well, I sort of go into in the film, I didn't want to be saddled with a desktop job, just doing the same stuff all the time, being a technician. And that's the way, unfortunately, most of the work is going for young people, is you get settled to a desktop and you're going to crank out shots if you're in the visual effects business. And if you're an editor or many of the other disciplines. And I just naturally rebelled against that. I wanted to do more creative material, and somehow I was fortunate enough in my career that I got to go out on location and work with actors and work with physical effects crews and have a good time.
Well, you mentioned that in your film where you get to travel a lot, and you kind of you actually didn't like taking the huge jobs, but the smaller jobs allowed you a lot more freedom. How was that?
Yeah, I just really enjoyed that. I did TV movies back in the 90s were really fun because, as I mentioned in the film, the client actually, they were so desperate to get something on the screen that they were fortunate and grateful for whatever we were able to supply for them. So that was fun, and we had a lot of good times together.
So I know COVID probably played a very big part in this decision, but you know, having done your first films, Cabbages and Kings, and then now done this film, was it a natural, ideal, or progression for you to do a film based on your own life and your own career? Or was it something that just came about because it was COVID and you had all this valuable information that you just wanted to collate together into one film?
Well, as I mentioned, I was sitting at home during the lockdown, and I was restoring a bunch of family photos, and then I got into restoring old student films. And then I put two and two together, and I said, gee, I've got a bunch of these production stills for Cabbages and Kings. Why don't I make a making of documentary about how Cabbages and Kings was done? And that was the genesis of the idea. And then I just carried it through to the rest of the career. And what I think is interesting is that we were able to structure it into a 3-act structure. I mean, it's a cohesive story. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't leave out a lot of stuff. 44 years or so, there's a lot of stuff that happens, but it's a good overview of one man's career. And people seem to respond to it because they identify with the character in the film, and it makes them feel like they're not alone in their own struggles.
Yeah, I can see that, especially in the part where you start talking how hard it was for you to actually find a job. And then, of course, you inadvertently realize that when the one guy brings you into the office that he was offering you a job. I found that very funny. I can't remember his name offhand.
His name is Ken, and he's still a good friend of mine.
Oh, good. Because I thought that little point in the film was like, oh man, what's going to happen to him? I mean, geez, he's he's getting fired. He can't keep up with the times, and all of a sudden, bam, that comes in. And it kind of it humanizes your not just your character, but you for the film. And you're right. It creates a 3-act structure so that people can just follow you on your journey. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about the film. It's not just like a bunch of clips of like the best of or just showing stuff that you've done. It's actually a progression and a story about where you started off from to where you ended up now. I mean, how was the editing process for that? You say you have 44 years worth of experience. Cutting that down to, I think, an hour and a half must have been daunting.
Well, part of it was done for me because I only have certain pieces of that story. I don't have pictures and images of everything. And in fact, it was a challenge getting images at all of the places I worked. The school I went to, believe it or not, there's very little material, visual material of USC in the 1970s, or before for that matter. I found a coffee table book that they put out, and certain images from that are in the film, but there's really not a whole lot out there. So what I could find is in the movie. It's just very narrow.
Oh, wow. I was thinking that you had like a ton of footage, a ton of pictures and everything. I just want to know how you cut it down because it's pretty concise and extremely well done. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, well, kudos to your editor because I like one of the things I love to watch about feature-length documentaries is the way in which they, like your film does, it starts with a character and or story and it progresses based on the footage that you have access to, the stills you have, and depending on how many interviews and stuff you have. Your film is obviously not a talking heads film.
Yes, but it is a talking me film.
Yeah, but
that's where I began. That's where I began, Kevin. I decided to just put the story down on paper. Okay. I showed it to my wife. She said, "Don't change a word." Yeah, okay. So I recorded it, and it took me like several days to record it. It's like 24 pages of solid dialogue. And I then cut it all together just as an audio track, and it was feature length. So I said, okay, I got a feature here. Let's go.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Oh, well, I guess 24 pages of solid dialogue probably could translate to a feature length film. Oh, wow. No, that's very interesting to me because I was trying to figure out your process for this. Because at first I didn't actually know it was you that was narrating. I don't know. My process for watching everyone's films is that I don't read what they're about. I don't watch the trailer. I just simply watch the movie blind. And so it took me a few moments to realize that you were actually narrating your own story. I was like, oh, hey, look, well, you didn't hire, Mel Gibson or Morgan Freeman to narrate like everyone else does.
Nope, don't got the money, bud. I actually considered trying to get actors from Cabbages and Kings to narrate for me or put in parts of it. And I asked my wife about that, and she said, nope, it's your story. You need to tell it. And so that's the way it is. Certainly easier that way.
Yeah, no, that's a good point that she makes. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Like I said, it adds to the it adds to your personality for the film. So yeah. So I want to know how has the film been received outside, in film festivals and stuff like that? Have you been able, because of COVID, have you been able to get any good feedback from it?
I don't know about feedback, but what I've done is I've submitted it to a whole bunch of film festivals.
Okay, good.
And the positive response rate, that is whether they make it as a selection or give it an award, has been of the ones that have responded so far has been above 60% positive rate.
Nice.
So I'm pleased with that. Just got another one this morning from Macedonia.
Macedonia. Okay. Well, congrats on that.
But you saw the film, you know that it's about Hollywood, it's about California culture, it's about working in show business and a very narrow slice of society. So the rest of the world, I don't know how they even identify with it, because there's some jargon in there. And I have discovered that, say, folks in the Mediterranean area didn't positively respond. They were some of those that rejected. And it seems like the closer you get to Los Angeles, the closer the film festival is to Los Angeles, the more positive the response is.
Interesting. Well, the thing about your film that's different than a lot of other films that talk about Hollywood is that your film does specifically talk about theme parks. And there are very few movies out there that I can think of that talk about theme parks and the people that work in theme parks, and of course what you did on some of the rides for these theme parks. So that could be.
There's a whole series on Disney Plus about Behind the Magic and documentaries about theme park attractions, but it's corporate fluff. It's positive spin. It's not quite reality. I mean, they give credit where credit is due at the top end of the ladder, but when it comes to the folks that actually did the work down in the trenches, you never hear from them.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have your film now.
The other thing that's kind of interesting, I think, about my film, and maybe you can prove me wrong, but when somebody sets out to do an autobiography, they usually write a book. I can't think of too many people that make films about their own lives. And so that's a sort of a novelty about Shoveling Pixie Dust, I think.
I think you might be right about that.
There may be others, there's probably others. I just don't know of any.
No, most of the films I've seen would have the documentarian would infuse themselves into whatever story they're telling, but not actually tell like an autobiography of themselves.
Right.
That's very interesting. I have to be on the lookout for that now.
Let me know if you find one. Play a double bill.
All right. So getting down to some of the actual work that you did, because you show a lot of the I want to say I want to pick the right word for exactly what you do for the theme park so people don't get confused. But you designed a lot of the art direction, the video. Tell me the right word I should be using.
Let me put it in my own way. I always kind of said that I was fortunate enough to have somebody else bake the cake. That is, someone else designed and built the attractions, and they called in our department and our skills to put the icing on the cake. And that was interesting because we're doing the magic. We're doing the stuff that the people respond to emotionally. And that was really a fun part of the experience. They would build a building, and okay, it's just a building. It's just got a bunch of mechanics and wires in it. And it's not really an attraction until you put something in there that tells the story. And these days, media or video or visual effects is what tells the story, especially in theme parks.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that you've worked on is quite amazing. From what I've only seen from the film, but you mentioned so many projects that you had a hand in working on. What was some of your favorites?
Well, I mentioned a couple of the favorites in the film. Two of them were in Tokyo. One is a Beauty and the Beast attraction. In that we did the resurrection of the Beast, among other things. We also did the Be Our Guest sequence and actually bits and pieces throughout the film. But the resurrection of the Beast after he's killed off by Gaston is an amazing effect. The group decided to go all out in making one of the most spectacular effects. And I dare anybody to top it these days. You actually see the Beast transform into the prince right before your eyes.
Nice. I know you mentioned, and I don't want to give too much away because you're right. Some of that is in the movie, so I won't. In your movie, but also in the ride. So I won't give too much away. But I remember seeing that, and I was like, "Oh wow, that makes me think I was right in the movie," because that happens to be one of my more favorite of the Disney animated classics.
Yeah, me too.
And the sequence that you show is like, y'all just pulled that straight out of the movie. It looks so dang real. Uh,
It's even more thrilling when you see it in 3 dimensions with your own eyes. It's pretty fun.
well, see, now you have me wanting to go to the Disney theme parks just so I can see the real rides instead of all the little kids rides.
Yes, please. But as far as the little kids rides, some of the most fun that I had too was in Disneyland in California. They upgraded a bunch of the small sea attraction dark rides, such as Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, and Snow White. And I was able to help upgrade those that kind of needed a little love. And my favorite one was Alice in Wonderland. We added a lot of video in there, and I think it does that particular show proud. It used to be the bastard stepchild of sea rides, sea attractions, and now I think it sparkles.
Interesting.
So next time you're in Disneyland, check out Alice in Wonderland.
All right. All right. So what are you currently doing now? Are you still working on, are you trying to work on your own films again, trying to go back to being a director, or are you still working on visual effects, or what are you doing now post-COVID?
Well, currently I'm kind of shuttling around to various film festivals trying to present this film and see, let people enjoy it and see if people can be helped by it. I'm getting on a plane in a couple of days to go down to one in Texas.
Nice.
And we'll just see how that goes. I am officially retired. That's the first line in the movie. And
Yeah, that's right.
I've got some health issues, so I kind of stay at home a lot, especially with COVID. I'm immunocompromised. But I'm going to be doing some writing, and I'm looking forward to trying to make some other weirdo films under the weird situation that we have now. I should add that comment too, is when I started my career, when you had to make movies with film, you cannot imagine how difficult and awkward that is. People just look on it romantically, but you had to have a fortune to even think about making a film that way. Now, we've got a feature film, Shoveling Pixie Dust, that was done all on my desktop by one guy. And I had always longed for the democratization of the filmmaking process, and we kind of got that in spades now. And that's the good news. Anybody can tell a story. Anybody can make a movie now. But it also, the bad news is you've got competition with everybody else. Getting somebody to actually look at your film is now the big challenge.
Yeah, but it sounds like you've been traveling to go to some of these film festivals that are screening your movie, which is one of the things I like to tell other filmmakers is like, it's always good that your film gets in a lot of film festivals, but you also need to go out there and see how the audience is reacting to it.
Exactly.
Seeing what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, and hopefully that experience will help you craft your next project. So what you're doing is exactly what I want to hear. Because
even if it wasn't my own film, I always learn as much from a bad film as I do from a good film when I'm watching it.
Yeah. And fortunately, you had a lot of experience before putting this one together. Which begs to ask the question: did you how much experience did you have between Cabbages and Kings, and then of course all your theme park stuff? Were you still actively working on any of your own films, short films, or anything like that, or were you an assistant? You said you were second unit on stuff. Did that help you craft this film?
Not necessarily. I mean, through your whole career, you learn the tricks of telling a story. You learn the tricks of pacing and editing. And very early on, the first film that I worked on in film school, I was editing somebody else's movie, and that was a really good experience too. Helped me learn to tell a story and tell it concisely and tell it in a way that is engaging.
Nice. So uh, I'm trying to think of anything else. I don't want to give too much away from your film. You told so
Oh,
much.
go ahead, give it away. Spoilers. Anybody that doesn't like spoilers, they can tune out now.
Which is so odd because this is a documentary, but this is one of the few that is, because it's about a person who the person who made the movie. It almost means like I don't want to tell so many people about what happens in the movie because I'm talking to you about it. But that being said, I also want to know what is one of the most fun aspects of making this film, since you did it all in your comfort of your own home during COVID. It wasn't like you had like a whole bunch of experience going out there and shooting interviews and getting footage and stuff like that. So what was the most fun aspect of doing this film, since you did most of it at home?
That's an easy one to answer. It was something that allowed me to count my blessings. I'm going through this and I'm reviewing my whole life and seeing that even though it was a struggle out there, I really had a very good life, to quote Clarence Oddbody. You do know who Clarence Oddbody is, don't you?
I don't, but you know,
he's the angel in It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh,
well, I had a wonderful life, and I have no complaints.
Nice, nice. Because yeah, I'm just I've been hearing more stories this past year over filmmakers who have been trying to craft their movies, but then they do something else because COVID happened and they've been forced to do a different type of movie altogether or figure out how to do their current movie in a different way. So since I now know that you did this in COVID times, it was kind of like, oh, crap. So I honestly thought you were going to have a whole bunch of time spent collating all this stuff together, but
well, actually, finding the clips was a big challenge. I spent a lot of my time either finding or restoring. Every clip in there got some sort of treatment to get it up to snuff. But talking about COVID movie making, I'll give a shout out. There was a film that I saw at the Santa Fe Festival that I thought was just brilliant, and it was done by Dan Castellaneta and his wife, the voice of Homer Simpson.
Oh.
And during COVID, they made a Zoom movie. They made a film noir detective movie entirely on Zoom by sending green screens and costumes out to all their friends and all their acting buddies, and they filmed the whole thing using Zoom, and it's hilarious. It's just a brilliant film.
Okay. Wow, I haven't seen any type of film like that yet, but that's impressive that the filmmakers have been trying to find ways of making their films even during COVID time.
And the name of that film is called The Big Lockdown.
Of course.
So if it shows up, make sure you see it. It's pretty funny.
The Big Lockdown. I'm writing that one down. Even though I can always look it up. Oh my God. All right. Well, is there anything that you would like to tell the audience when they're watching your film? Anything at all?
Well, I would tell them the basic theme that you're likely to get from it, which is you are not alone. You're out there with your career, with your life. You've got your own struggles. Here's mine. Let's talk together about how we're similar and not different, and how we shouldn't be at each other's throats. We should be moving together shoulder to shoulder.
Nice. So, all right. I have one more question for you. Is there a little funny story you could tell me in regards to what transpired while making this film at all? Something interesting that's a little crazy that might have happened?
Well, there was one thing that happened when I was restoring Cabbages and Kings that I thought was fascinating. The original was not in good shape, as you saw, and probably the weakest part of the film is the soundtrack. So I went through and I was restoring the soundtrack, and I got the film together and put it up on the screen, and my wife and myself sat there and watched it, and my wife says, "What's that thumping?" And I said, "What thumping?" I didn't hear it. So I went back in the editing bay and brought that audio up on that particular scene, and yep, there's thumping. And then I listened, and I said, "By golly, it's a heartbeat." It was the heartbeat of the actress. She had a lavalier mic on for that scene and that scene only. And when I had equalized the soundtrack to get things a little bit more listenable, all of a sudden her heartbeat showed up. So I went back and EQ'd it and rolled off some of the bass, and the heartbeat went away. But I just thought that was fascinating, that this crummy optical audio soundtrack still had that much resolution, that it got that heartbeat in there. And then I was watching an old musical called Singing in the Rain, and that's actually a gag that they have in that movie when sound movies start coming in, and they had a microphone on an actress and you hear the heartbeat, and that's one of their gags. And by golly, it actually happened to us.
So my final take from this is I need to go to all of the Disney theme parks just to see what you have accomplished, and see all the stuff that's in the film that you've accomplished. I also need to catch Cabbages and Kings on YouTube, the restored version. And then I need to find out the Big Lockdown.
Yeah, that's a good list.
That is a good list, and it has been a pleasure talking to you about you in your film.
It's been great, Kevin. Thank you.
I am so glad we were able to do this, especially since me and my wife watched your film and we love the film. I'm glad I was able to talk with you about your film, because I don't do enough interviews about filmmakers who make films about themselves. This is one of the reasons why we did the category personal documentaries and character documentaries, is because we don't see a lot of those films here. I see a lot of political, a lot of environmental films, but I wanted to see more films that kind of cater towards people's own personal stories and, particular characters that filmmakers are fascinated with, which is something.
Well, I think we should warn your audience that, here's a guy making a movie about himself. Well, just how narcissistic is that? It sounds like it's going to be dreadful. Just put that out of your head. It's not quite as bad as you think. Give it 10 minutes and you might be surprised.
Yes, I will agree with that, and I will make sure my friends and I know about that and tell people about that. But you're actually right. I never thought about that. Because I watched so many documentaries, I never thought about it in that way. Someone who makes a film about themselves being narcissistic. I'll put that under the tagline for the category from now on. Please,
not narcissistic.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Tim, for doing the interview. Let's hope that your film continues to be successful, and that all of your film screenings that are coming up are very successful, because I always like to wish filmmakers a success when their films are traveling film festivals. Please let us know if your film gets any accolades or any more stuff, because what we'll do is we'll post them on social media and stuff like that. We like to promote all of our filmmakers, no matter if they're in our event or if they're in someone else's event. And then, of course, we are looking forward to whatever project or film that you work on next. So feel free to let us know when that happens.
Great, Kevin. Thank you so much.
All right.
This has been fun.
Thank you. You have a pleasant day.
You too. Bye-bye.